What's up, everybody? Rob here, back with something different. I'm playing Modern. I have not made a Modern video in a very long time. It's probably been close to a year. Modern is a format that I have loved dearly for most of my Magic playing life, but I kind of fell off it kind of around Hogak nonsense, and then Pioneer came out and it was awesome. And then COVID happened, and I don't know, I just lost track of Modern. I was just grinding Arena. Historic became awesome. It was a whole thing. But you know what? Right now, Modern is probably the best format, or one of the best, as far as like variety of decks to choose from, just actually fair Magic, which is insane to say about Modern. But when you're looking at Standard right now, you've got the 4-color Omnath nonsense, you've got just more Uro stuff, and Uro is still probably the most common card I'm gonna see playing a Modern League, but at least there's a variety and there's more stuff I can do to combat it, and it's fighting on different axes. So I'm just super excited to play some Modern. And the deck I'm most excited to play against, or not against, play with, is this green-white Death and Taxes deck. So various builds of Death and Taxes has been kind of like my pet deck forever. I just love it. I just love Aether Vialing in thing like Leonin Arbiter and blowing up lands. It's so good. And with the release of Zendikar, we have some awesome new additions. So Skyclave Apparition is one of the newest. If you're unfamiliar, when Skyclave Apparition enters the battlefield, exile up to one target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with converted mana cost 4 or less. So it's kind of like a Fiend Hunter, Banishing Priest sort of effect, but unlike with those cards, when Skyclave Apparition leaves the battlefield or dies, the person doesn't get their permanent back. They basically just get a XX where that is their converted mana cost. So essentially, you're kind of like Okoing, like making an elk type thing, which people are like, oh, you're getting a 3/3, but we all saw how powerful that effect can be. So this, like, just using like a standard example, you can turn a questing beast into a 4/4 even if this thing dies, like just a vanilla 4/4, way less scary. This card is really powerful. It's 3 mana, so it's kind of towards the high end of what you want to be playing in Modern, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be powerful enough, and it's going to help us answer a lot of problematic permanents. Another new card I'm really excited to play with is Archon of Emeria. So this is kind of like a combination of that Eidolon of Rhetoric, I want to say. The white Eidolon from the original Theros, where basically it was just the go-to hate card for like Storm and stuff like that. It says like you can only cast 1 spell per turn. So this has that ability, but it also has the non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tap, which is kind of taken from Big Thalia, if you remember. I think it's Thalia... Oh, I forget, the 3-mana one that has first strike and does cool stuff. So it's kind of like a mix of those two abilities. It's also a 3-drop flyer, so it helps kind of the bear aspect, just keep chipping in for 2 damage, which this deck, it's how it wins. Other than that, a lot of old familiar faces. We're running the full suite of Path to Exile, which is the premier removal spell if you're playing white. Just one of the best removal spells in all of Modern. We've got the full 4 Noble Hierarchs, which I'm super excited about in this deck because on the rare occasion, or, you know, what is it, like 40% chance I don't get a good hand with Aether Vial, having a Noble Hierarch as a backup lets me still cast my 3 drops on turn 2, which is very good. Other than that, we've got the Aether Vial, obviously. Great card. It helps play around counter magic. It lets us play at instant speed with cards that normally wouldn't let us do that. So if you're unfamiliar, Aether Vial and Flickerwisp is especially powerful because on your end step, you can you can flash in Flickerwisp, exile a permanent your opponent controls, and then that's gone for the entire turn until the next end step. So a lot of times you're going to use this to maybe keep your opponent off mana, to keep your opponent off of like a combo piece, and just overall just really disrupt your opponent's game plan. And then usually that helps you get a little bit more advantage, prepare for what they're going to be doing on your next turn, or even just attack in for the win. Because Flickerwisp is a 3-powered flyer, which gets some damage in pretty quick. Other than that, we've got a couple Charming Princes, another kind of utility creature in these decks. You have the ability to blink something, you have the ability to scry and gain life, so it kind of serves multiple purposes depending on what you need it to do in each matchup. We have the 4 Leonin Arbiter, which is another staple of this archetype. Basically, Leonin Arbiter in Ghost Quarter is just the main thing you really want to see happen. You want to be able to destroy your opponent's lands and they can't fetch up anything to replace it, so they're going down on lands. You hopefully have an Aether Vial, so you don't care as much about your lands, and it's just, it's so good. Or they don't read it, and they try to crack up fetch land. Let's see. We've got our Thalia. Again, this is a primarily creature-based deck. The only spells we're really running are Path to Exile and Aether Vial. Both 1-drops. If you pay 2 mana to path something important, you're not that upset. You really want Thalia to keep your opponent off of stuff that affects you, so that's what that does. Scavenging Ooze, just a multi-format all-star. Everybody knows what Scooze does. Great against Uro, great against graveyard decks, great against Burn. Just overall great card. Qasali Mage. I'm sorry, you're not a maid. You're a Pride Mage. Not that there's anything wrong with being a maid. He could be a maid if he wants. But again, you get Exalted triggers for just attacking in with like one of your flyers. And it also can just destroy problematic artifacts or enchantments. So very good utility creature. I've already talked about Archon of Emeria and Flickerwisp and Skyclave Apparition. We've got 2 Renegade Ralliers, which is a card that pops up occasionally in modern decks. But it works pretty well because the Revolt ability can get triggered off of the 1 fetch land, which is not really what you're doing in this deck, but all of the blink effects. So say I blink something with a Restoration Angel, that means something left the battlefield, my Revolt is going to get triggered. I can then bring back, say, a dead Leonin Arbiter, basically anything from these 2 stacks of cards. So it's actually these 3 because it's a permanent. So powerful card in the right situations. I'm not running a ton of them, but when it works, it works. And if you need to get something back from the graveyard, you're very happy you have these. And then curving out to our 4-drop of choice, and that is Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel has kind of been the Flash All-Star since it was released, and basically being able to re-trigger some of your cards is what you want this for. Restoration Angel onto a Flickerwisp at instant speed on an end step. You kind of get that same ability to exile something for a long period of time. You can even play a Flickerwisp. With its ability on the stack, you can then flash in Restoration Angel, hit the Flickerwisp, it goes in and out, then you exile another thing, and one of those things is gone forever. So there's a lot of really fun stuff you can do in this deck, and I love it, and I've loved Death and Taxes for so long, and I'm so happy that this archetype is still good, and it actually seems better than it has been in a while. I also want to give a shout out to Lucky Strike. That's the player name on Magic Online, who 5-0'd with this exact list 4 days ago. So that's where I got the inspiration for this build. And yeah. Oh yeah, sideboard. I guess I could talk about the sideboard. It's a sideboard in Modern. We've got Aven Mindcensors to disrupt searching. We've got Dismember for creatures, Knight of Autumn for life gain or blowing up artifacts and enchantments. We've got Gaddock Teeg against expensive stuff, Relic for graveyards, Damping Spears for Tron or Storm. We've got Firewalker for our burn matchup, Gideon for just the really grindy, maybe Control or like Jund or something like that. Winds of Abandon is good if you have a bunch of creature spells you need to deal with and you can overload it, or it's just another removal spell if we need that. And yeah, that is this green-white Death and Taxes build with some hot new Zendikar Rising cards that I'm super excited to play. So let's pop into a league and see how we do. Yeah, so the audio I recorded for this league was completely unusable, so enjoy this nonsense. Game 1. And we'll keep this. Turn 1 Noble. Our opponent playing Tron. We play our Pridemage, get in for 2. Our opponent plays an island, so they're on blue Tron. Alright, so we follow this up with an attack for 3. Gotta love Exalted. Pass to my opponent. Another Tron land, and they pass. Recycle the Canopy. Get a Ghost Quarter. Draw into Thalia. Play our Thalia. Our Thalia gets Condescended. And you know what? We decide to blow up one of their Tron lands. Try to slow them down. but they got another one. And they play Thought-Knots here. Bye-bye Flickerwisp. And we drew another Flickerwisp. So we're going to play this Flickerwisp. We're going to bounce the Thought-Knot to draw a card. We get a Renegade Rallier, which is not long for this world, but we can bring our opponent to 6. Back comes the Thought-Knot, and goodbye Rallier. Our opponent, Expedition Map, not too effective. And we draw a path. We're going to path that Thought-Knot. We're going to draw a card, get a Hierarch. And that is Lethal Exalted. Nope. It's Condescending is what it is. Too bad. We're paying for it. And we win. Let's go to the sideboard. So for the sideboard, we just decided to go 2 Gaddock Teeg and 2 Damping Sphere. So on the draw, we start out with Temple Garden into Noble Hierarch. We're hoping to play a turn 2 Arbiter into Ghost Quarter. Gaddock Teeg is nice. So we figure we should get the Vial online soon. It will do a lot of work against things like Condescend, and next turn we can hopefully still Arbiter. And it gets remanded. And our opponent playing Chalice of the Void, which could be a problem, but they put it on 1 for no reason at all. So that's our advantage. We play Arbiter, we crack our lands, and we blow up there's a mine? I can't read, it's a small screen. And our opponent falls up with a tower. And we follow up with an attack for 3. After that, we get our Old Man online. And that's kind of our trump card. This deck has a very hard time doing anything against Gaddock Teeg. So Thought-Knot Seer, a little bit of roadblock. Can't cast Path to Exile, so we're going to have to just kind of wait it out. So on their turn, we're going to play the Archon, cause all of their lands to come in tapped. And they pass. We get some lands, and we start attacking in the air. Again, tapped land, not much else to do. Gaddock Teeg doing work. Go to our team. Attack for 3 in the sky. Another land. Another turn passed. We draw our land. We go to attacks. Get in for 3 in the sky. Gaddock Teeg continuing to do work. All right, and here we go. Their turn again. Another tapped land. All right, so we're just gonna flash in some Restoration Angels here, get some more damage in the air. Draw a card. Got ourselves a Thalia and a Charming Prince. Thalia gets remanded, back in the hand. We bash in the air, getting some damage in, pass the turn. And our opponent thinking what they can do. And they scoop it up. We got there. Game 1. Let's go to game 2. Game 2. All right, so a much worse hand. Got a mull to 6, and this ain't so bad. We bin the Resto Angels, start with an Aether Vial. Our opponent plays a Flooded Strand. We play Ghost Quarter, and we play our Thalia. Our opponent fetches and opts in response. Don't want to pay that 2 mana for an opt. Can't blame them. And they're playing in Plains. Looks like we're up against Blue-White Control. Alright, so we get in for 3 with the Thalia. Thank you, Exalted. And we pass the turn. We've got our Vial on 2 for Charming Prince, and there's that expensive opt for our opponent. Ooh, a Colonnade. That's a good target for Ghost Quarter. And we just drew a Rallier, the best friend of the Ghost Quarter. So this is where we get to start doing some fun shenanigans. Thank you, I would like to bring that back. And we pass the turn. Got our Vial on 3, so we can flash in a Rallier whenever needed. And look, another perfect target. Yes, I would like to get my Ghost Quarter back again. And let's see if they have any planes in their deck. Okay, they path in response. That's fine. We can fix our mana while we're at it. Weird choice to do that to a Rallier, but it is what it is. Our opponent fetched an island and passed the turn, which is kind of bizarre. Well, we'll play a tapped land, and we'll get in for a couple bits of damage. And we're going to try to throw at this Charming Prince, but our opponent logic nods it, so it is what it is. All right, and our opponent just chilling, doing nothing, so they pass, and we're going to crack our canopy. Here we draw into a Pridemage, and let's keep this on 3. No, and a Hierarch. Oh, opponent's getting tricky. Gonna bounce and tap. Ain't no thing. We can play a very expensive Aether Vial here. Thank you, Thalia. But that's not bad. Pass the turn here. Keep the step in our hand, just in case. You never know. Supreme Verdicts are a bad time. So our opponent here, thinking, okay, they're spreading the seas. Now I only have 1 green source? Oh no. So let's get in for 5. Our opponent goes to 3. Yes. And that was it. They saw the writing on the wall. They feared us. All right, after a quick sideboard, how about some Knights of Autumn and some Gideons? And look, there they are, chilling in the hands. Tapped Temple Garden. Our opponent's just playing some lands as well, so we'll play an Arbiter. Our opponent paths and fetches in response. But, you know, we got the mana, we're on parity, and we've got the answers. So I'm just trying to draw some cards here. Not going to play into a counterspell with my powerful stuff. But Flash is nice. At the end of their turn, I can play Restoration Angel and start get a clock going. So there we go. We're just beating them up. But they path us with a Snapcaster Mage, and we blow up their Colonnade just to keep them off win conditions. And they Field of Ruin in response, so there's a lot of searching going on. Alright, so we draw into a Thalia and we play it. It resolves, which is nice. Helps slow my opponent down. They fetch to 13. They get some lands and pass again. And I filter a Canopy again. Draw into a Knight of Autumn. Play it to get a nice thick body. And we draw into a Rallier. You'll love to see it. Get in for some more damage. Blow up. And we play a Rallier. Let's bring it back. And thinking. And that's it. They scoop it up. They cannot beat the Rallier quarter combo. Also, didn't seem like they were playing Planeswalkers, which is a weird choice for blue-white control. But hey, I'm not going to complain. Let's go to game 3. All right, and we've got another turn 1 Noble game, which always feels good. We've got a nice Arbiter here. We've got all the mana. They got a fetch. We get in for 1. And we play an Arbiter. They fetch in response. The smart move. Playing a Triome. That usually means Uro nonsense. Bash in for 3 here. Play another. They Grill Spiral. All right, they're getting all the mana. So we bash in. Holding up Restoration Angel here. Got a good board going on, but Blast Zone is going to be a problem potentially. And our opponent's down to 2 already because we are beaten down with the Bears. And there's the Uro friend. But you know what? I'm feeling okay about this still. So they're playing Field of the Dead nonsense with Uro. And you know what? It wasn't enough. We were just too goddamn good. So sideboarding, some exile removal, some graveyard heart. Let's go again. Turn 1 Noble, gotta love it. Our opponent's ramping, but you know, I got a Ghost Quarter. I got an Arbiter. That Blast Zone's going away. So let's blow that guy up. Ooh, Fire Spout. Didn't see that one coming, so that's going to kind of turn the tides for our opponent here. I'm just going to speed it up and let you see how my opponent and their Ren and 6 just completely destroyed us in Game 2. Yeah, who would have thought Landfall and Ren 6 was good? So I changed my sideboard around, put some Aven Mindcensors, got rid of the Relic of Progenitus? That's the one. And it's already up to a good start. We're going to be able to blow up some lands here. And we've got a Rallier friends. So we're going to get in for 3. We're going to blow up a land. They're going to be able to pay for it, but keep them off the duels. And we don't lose out on land either. And we're going to blow up that red. They bolt in response, which is a bummer, but hey, now they have no red mana. And a fetched land. This Mindcensor could potentially be very good. Continuing to bash in for 4. And a Growth Spiral. So they're catching up on the mana, but I see multiple fetch lands. So we let the first one go, and we Mindcensor here. Probably should have Mindcensored earlier, but you know, sometimes you don't pay attention. There's Uro, but we can exile that, so they only get 1 turn of value. And look at that, still not much red mana. And here is the best. How many times can our Mindcensor hit? Let's just wait. Let's just watch the glory. So we get in, do the dang thing, and let's blow up this land. And do they find anything? Oh, they whiffed. And let's try again. Play the Rallier. You get the Ghost Quarter. And let's blow it up. And do they hit anything? Oh yeah, they whiffed. This is the moment when I realized that Renegade Rallier teamed up with Ghost Quarter is amazing. And there, my opponent whiffs once on a fetch land, only gets an island, and that seals the deal. We totally crush him. Renegade Rallier MVP. Game 4. So in this game, I played against Neoform, and my opponent beat themselves better than I ever could. So let's watch it at 2,000 speed and watch that happen. Game 5. So this game was against a very aggressive deck, and it went by pretty quick. So I'm just going to speed it up, and we're going to go from there. So first game started with a Mull to 6. Not great. Pridemage, not a start move. Our opponent really aggressively hurting themselves, so clearly we're up against Death Shadow, and they've got a Death Shadow. Luckily, our new friend here is a great answer to it. And ooh, a Scourge of the Skyclaves. Another fun new card. And we have an answer to it, but they have an answer to that. And yeah, I didn't want to waste a path yet. So we let that live. Also, we're at 19 life, so it's not a huge problem. And goodbye, my friend. And another. So our opponent is playing kind of a Rakdos version of this deck, which seems like the way you want to go. You want to be very aggressive, and you want to make sure both you and your opponent's life totals are low, whereas traditional Death Shadow only cares about yourself. This one, you also want to hurt your opponent. So another benefit of the Apparition in this matchup is that everything they play is super low-costed. So when you trade for their 15-15 or their like 10-10, they're only going to get a 1-1 or a 2-2. So I'm not that afraid. But they got a lot of value, and they got a lot of beatdown power. So this is definitely the hardest match we've played so far. We've got the Leonin Arbiter, we've got a Ghost Quarter, but they've got so much mana. They've got their Lurrus. It's looking a little bleak. And I believe they're getting ready for a big a 1-2 here. Yep. Gotta love prowess. Gotta love lightning bolts. And that's dead. So sideboard, we want protection from red. We want life gain. We are thinking about removal, but we're not sure yet. So yeah, this is what we're going to end up settling on. Just taking off a little bit of the expensive, not super impactful cards, and hope we can get there with our disruption and our life gain. So we're on the play. We've got a turn 1 Noble into a turn 2, I don't know, Thalia, Renegade Rallier. It's looking like a pretty good hand. So we also have the Ghost Quarter, Renegade Rallier, Bonanza, which also is a great time. But bolting our Noble is a great way to slow us down, and our opponent is really hidden into that. But we've got our Vial out now, so we're going to be able to multi-spell pretty easily. We're going to be able to fetch here for a duel or something. Our opponent stumbling on land. But again, these decks are a little crazy, so we'll see how it goes. Using our Renegade Rallier for a slightly less fun value train. Instead of getting a Ghost Quarter back, we're just getting a fetch land back, but, you know, ramping yourself, it can be good. It can be very good. So here, we've got a removal spell in hand, we've got a Flickerwisp in hand. Unfortunately, our Aether Vial is not far enough up to do some kind of flicker nonsense, but what are you gonna do? Looking good so far, but again, you never want to second guess yourself with this deck. Can really be down. Getting one out of nowhere, and kind of did the last time. Gotta love when your opponent bolts themselves, and that is how they end up winning. So our opponent here, hurting themselves a lot, killing some of my creatures. But we can protect here, and they just get a 2/2. Some tradesies going on here. Probably a bad mood on my part, but what are you going to do? Fetching up a forest. And here comes back our spell. They're going to push our Flickerwisp, but we're going to be able to get rid of the mage. And there's a big Death Shadow. That's going to be a problem. So we keep our Aether Vial at 3. Got an Archon, which is fun. Not great in this matchup, but, you know, if it was against Grixis Death Shadow, probably would have been great with all the dual lands and such. And there's a Bolt. They're going to get a Spirit. So just having this large body, they're going to be able to catch up pretty quick. And there's another one. And there's a very low impact card. Luckily, we can get in for 4 here. Kind of push it to the limit. Hope they don't have Temur Battle Rage. Hope they don't have removals. But you know what? They got it. And they crushed us. So, in the end, 4-1. Can't complain. Let's wrap it up. All right, everybody, so here we are for the wrap-up. Sorry for the kind of weird format of this video. I did the whole league. I didn't do a test record. At the very end, I threw it into Premiere, and the audio was completely blotchy, blocky, compressed. It sounded terrible, and it was completely unusable, but the deck was so awesome, and I did surprisingly well with it that I had to somehow use this. So I know this is kind of a goofier, weird version of a video. It was a pain in the ass to edit, so if you love this, too bad, you're not going to get a lot of these. It was exhausting. I mean, the fact that Pleasant Kenobi or whoever else can make videos, like, good God, they must not have children. They must have time. But anyway, let's talk about the deck, because we 4-1 to Modern League with it. It was incredibly impressive, and I gotta say, the new cards were awesome, specifically Skyclave Apparition. This card is huge. This card was awesome against the creature decks. Although we did lose against the Death Shadow deck, this card was awesome, and like, especially against those cards. You basically just kill them, and if they kill this, they get a 1-1 or a 2-2. That's nothing. Renegade Rallier was a huge all-star for me. This is a card that I've seen show up in Modern lists from time to time, but it was usually just kind of a way to get a little bit of value with your lands, like with fetch lands and stuff. But against that Uro deck, the value we got playing Ghost Quarters and just replaying them over and over again was awesome. It's a way to kind of mess with your opponent's land without falling behind on land yourself, which is something that usually in Modern you kind of have a trade-off. It's not quite as strong as like Legacy's land destruction like dance back and forth, but it felt real good, and I'm totally sold on Renegade Rallier in these decks. Other than that, Archon of Emeria, solid role player, very good in specific matchups, and it definitely helped us in some places. I think it definitely still has a home. Probably has a home main deck. Maybe you want to run some more on the side for the matchups where it really matters. But I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't upset at all. Other than that, the standard taxes package still seems good. 2 Qasali Pridemages in the main deck. Although the Exalted is good on times, I didn't run into too many, if any, like main deck enchantment or artifacts to blow up. So maybe, depending on that metagame and how it shakes up, you might want to put those in the sideboard and maybe run like a Knight of Autumn or 2 in the main deck, although that would ruin your curve a little bit, so maybe look into some other 2-drops. You have green, so maybe another Scavenging Ooze. Scavenging Ooze is very good against Uro. But yeah, I'm very happy with this deck. Shout out to Lucky Strike, the guy who I copied the list from. Dude knows what's up. This deck is awesome. I can't wait to play with it more. I can't wait to finish building it in paper, so once we're out of this Corona nightmare, I can finally play it in real life, which would be awesome. And yeah, if you guys have some ideas of how to shift this around, honestly, I felt really happy with it. Like I said, maybe there's a couple different 2-drops for the Pridemage slot, but yeah, super happy with this deck. You should definitely check it out if you're playing Modern. Modern is in such a good spot right now. We played against 5 different decks, 5 fair decks, and like the fact that a white-based Death and Taxes deck is good in Modern is an amazing sign of the health of the format. If you look at MTG Goldfish's like metagame breakdown, I think the number 1 most played deck is like 6% of the meta, and then if you look at Standard, it's like 100% Omnath. Hopefully tomorrow it gets banned. Hopefully. But yeah, Modern's amazing, and I'm going to play a lot more Modern. I'm going to dip into Pioneer, see how that's doing. It's been a while there too, but Modern for sure. Super excited to play more of it. Thank you guys for watching.